Introduction to Demigods. A demigod is created when a god lies down with a mortal, or when two demigods lie down with each other. The abilities of demigods always stem from those of their divine parent. The demigod of rivers and storms are both born from Emetaph, the god of water. In the case of those born from a pair of demigods, the powers manifested by their offspring will be a combination of both. The demigod of ravens, born from the union of the demigod of graveyards and the demigod of birds, is one such example. Avina, the demigod of birds, found herself often in the forest just outside Oasa. The tall oak trees surrounding the city stood watch over an enormous graveyard that mourned the dead from the North's countless crusades. And the demigod of birds spent many days resting in their high branches and looking out over the sea of headstones. One day Dormani, the demigod of graveyards, appeared. She was tall and lean, ghostly white with long black hair and a face so beautiful you knew at once that it was timeless. Avina had chosen the form of a sparrow, as they are plentiful in these forests, and she was drawn to respect the path that nature takes. She was immediately smitten with this quiet, graceful deity in a way she had never felt before and broke out into song, declaring her love. The sharp, clear chirps did not have the intended effect. Dormani scowled, placed hands over her ears, and retreated into a mausoleum. Avina returned the next day as a robin and sang a new song, but again Dormani fled from her calls. She returned the next day and the next as an eagle, then a hawk, then a parrot, then a vulture, the last of which invoked a slight smile and a barely perceptible nod before Dormani vanished once more into her crypt. When Avina returned one day as a bird so dark her feathers glistened purple in the sun, she was met by Dormani on a blanket of ivory bloodroot flowers. They danced for hours and laid down under a crescent moon, giving birth to Corbin, the demigod of ravens. Those who are unaware of their divine heritage will begin to see signs of it in their teens. The template for demigods is added to an existing character, gaining in power as they level, and is wholly independent from their class and racial abilities. When a god or demigod choose to birth a demigod, they impart some of their divine power. The god does not lose dominion over their divinity, but the demigod gains a greater degree of control. If the demigod of lions was to rise up against the demigod of beasts, the felines would remain loyal, even as Ova called forth every other type of creature to form her army. Abilities. Those who are the descendants of divinity gain some of that godly valor. While full gods are usually restricted to 24 in any given trait, with exceptions for the god of might and vitality, who can raise their strength and constitution to 30, respectively. Demigods are restricted to a max of 20, except in abilities tied to their birth god's divinity, which they can also raise to 24. Example: the demigod of lakes was sired by Emetaph, god of water, whose primary trait is wisdom, and can therefore raise that ability to 24. If the demigod is sired by other demigods, they have access to both primary traits from their parents. Demigods born in such a manner are considered a threat to the established order. They are hunted and thrown into the Union without training or guidance, most meeting their deaths within the first room of the Great Tower. Divinities. Demigods wield powerful divinities just as the god or demigods that bore them, but to a lesser degree. At each level up to 10th, a demigod may select one of the following: +2 bonus to one ability, +1 bonus to 2 abilities, regular feat, divine feat, or skin a spell. The skin spell level must be half the demigod's current level. It can be invoked as many times per round as the demigod has actions. If a lower level spell is skinned into a higher level divinity, it is treated as being cast one level higher for each additional level above half the demigod's level. Example: the demigod of lava selects Burning Hands to skin into a divinity at 5th level. At 1st level, the spell inflicts 3d6 damage. The demigod must be 2nd level to invoke a 1st level spell as a divinity, leaving 3 extra levels to raise the potency of the skinned spell. When invoked, the Demigod of Lava inflicts 6d6 damage with this divinity. When skinning a spell to create a divinity, the spell should be congruent with the demigod's theme. For example, it doesn't make much sense for the Demigod of Candlelight to tree stride, but it does make sense for them to magically leap from one flickering flame to another. Conditions. Some demigods have limits on their divinities. This allows their abilities to be more potent while restricting the time, location, and conditions under which those divinities may be used. The more limiting the condition, the more powerful the modifier. That modifier can then be used to amplify their divinity. Examples of conditions include during the day or night, +1. Invoking the divinity adds a level of exhaustion, +2. Immersed in water or while underground, +2. Requiring an unusual physical object as a focus for the divinity, +1. In light or darkness, +1. Only during a specific season, +4. In space, fresh water, or total darkness, +3. In developed land or wilderness, +1. Only with a large resource present, water, sand, fire, etc., +2. Can only be used once per round, +1. Can only be used an amount of time equal to the demigod's divinity modifier per day, +2. Can only be used once per short rest, +3. Can only be used once per long rest, +4. During an eclipse, under a blood moon, while a comet is overhead, or some other rare event, +5. Feel free to work with your DM to create other conditions that fit your character and the setting you are playing in. When a condition is added to a divinity that is skinned from a spell, the power of that divinity is considered one level higher for each bonus point gained. Alternatively, a condition can be used to lower the required level of a skinned spell. If a condition is added to an ability bonus, that ability is boosted by the condition modifier. Examples. The Demigod of Lakes gains a +2 strength bonus only while immersed in fresh water, therefore gaining an additional +3 conditional modifier for a total of +5 strength. When the Demigod of Lasers invokes Laser Blast, a skin-searing smite, the beam of energy must be focused through a pristine glass prism, increasing the level of the skin spell by 1 and the raised damage by 2d6. Conditions can also be used to invoke a divinity at a higher level than the skin spell, provided that spell has the ability to be cast at higher levels. Each +1 advances the skin spell by 1 level. Alternatively, you can use condition bonuses to make higher level spells accessible to your character, lowering the level requirement for each +1 conditional modifier. Example. The Demigod of Condensation can summon a wall of ice at level 10. As a 6th level spell, it would normally be 1 level too high, but the Demigod's powers are limited to environments that have enough moisture in the air to support them. The resulting conditional modifier of +1 lowers the spell level from 6 to 5. For more information about divinities, divine feats, and the world of Khalgun before the breaking of the Godswar, check out our Rise of the Demigods Kickstarter at Demigodsfall.com.